It's very purple.
It is very purple. It's my brand.
It is.
All right. Hey, friends. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Welcome to episode 30 of Motley Crew Chats, where myself and a friend of mine from Booktube or the book community pull up a chair, chat about books, and whatever else we feel like. There is a link down below to the channel of the person sitting next to me, who is my friend Matt. Matt, welcome to the channel. Would you introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah. I don't know if I deserve to be called a booktuber anymore, but I have a channel, Matt on Books, where a number of months ago, I used to relatively regularly bring out videos about fantasy, mostly science fiction, sometimes in comics occasionally. Mostly what people would know me for now is the Sunday Pub, which is a live chat where anybody is invited to join me on screen or in the comments every Sunday evening, my time, afternoon, everybody else's time. And I already see that there are many regular pubbers in the chat. Hi, Rogue.
Hi, Britton.
Hey, Britton.
Zin. Horrendous. Nice to see you. Thank you very much. Daniel's here.
Daniel's here. Alicia's here.
Alicia's here. We've got some regulars. Yeah. It's basically Sunday Pub 2 days in a row.
Exactly. This is your Sunday Pub on Saturday.
Exactly. This is
there will also be a Sunday Pub tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central Time for anyone in the U.S. who's like, what time is that?
2 p.m. EST.
EST. Oh, so 1 p.m. See, whatever. Time zones. 1 p.m. Central Time.
I've gotten used to thinking in EST, but I don't get the rest of America.
I forget my own time zone half the time now on Booktube because so many of the people I talk to are on Eastern Time that I just,
Ida's here. Grumpy Smurf is here.
Etha, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's later for you.
Where does Anitha live?
She's in Eastern too, I think. Right? Yeah. Either way, she's not.
She's in Eastern. It should be 2 in the afternoon.
It'd be 3 in the afternoon.
Get over yourself, Anitha. Oh, yeah, 3 in the afternoon. Yeah. Yeah, 3 in the afternoon.
3 in the afternoon is still not morning on a weekend.
No.
I was right.
It's still not morning.
Anitha, you are way more of a party animal than I am.
I was going to say, Anitha, I didn't realize Anitha was such a hardcore party girl.
I guess not.
She was out until 6 this morning.
Yeah. Raving. So Matt, what are you reading right now? Because we should talk about.
What am I reading right now? I am reading The Vanished Birds.
Nice.
By Simon Jimenez.
That's a cool cover. What's on the cover?
It's a boring cover. It's just so stereotypical, seen it 1,000 times before science fiction. The American cover. Yeah, I mean, it's not an inherently bad cover. It's just kind of like if you described the vast majority of science fiction books ever, you could say planet, stars, spaceship. Yep. And that would be it. And that's all this cover is.
Yeah.
The American cover is much more interesting, although it doesn't really say much about the book.
Right.
It's black and it's got all these squiggly lines that are, I think, orange and yellow.
And purple, maybe? Purple too.
Maybe purple as well. And it looks interesting.
Yeah.
It gives you no idea what the book is.
Yeah.
But it looks interesting. And so far, it's an interesting book.
Nice. How far through are you?
100 pages.
Okay.
For anyone who has read The Spear Cuts Through Water, it's a very different book. First of all, it's science fiction. Spaceship, planet, stars on the cover. Secondly, it doesn't have as experimental a structure as The Spear. So far, it's good though. It's interesting. I'm very curious to see where it goes. It's already set up a couple of interesting mysteries. And as you would probably expect, it's much more about characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not about technology at all. Or weird science fiction-y things. It's much more about the characters and the relationships and that kind of stuff. Yep, exactly. Summoned Evie.
There she is.
That was quick.
Magic. You know, maybe I just live under a rock, but I didn't even know Vanished Birds was science fiction. So the cover helped me today. I appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, like I said, it's not a bad cover.
Yeah.
But it's not a very interesting cover either. You know, I could, like, if you took off all the typography, I could literally hold up 100 other books that you could put this typography on them and they would be about as good as this. So yeah. But it's quite different. It's quite different from The Spear Cuts Through Water. But it's good. Yeah, so far there are no birds that feature prominently in the story. So maybe they vanished before the story began.
There you go.
It's possible.
Hello, Rick.
But I had a funny week because I finished Lonesome Dove.
Yep.
Which was good and sort of semi-soul crushing.
Yep.
And then I was going to start Vanished Birds, and I thought, you know, Jimenez can be a little bit more work than I feel like I want right now.
Right.
I'm going to start a reread of the Dresden Files because the Dresden Files is yummy popcorn.
Mm-hmm.
And I binged 3 Dresden Files books in 4 or 5 days.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well, that was something I was thinking about earlier today, is that both you and I have had experience with pretty heavy post-book reading slumps in the past. And I'm kind of coming through the end of one of them, I think. I hope. The last couple of months have been really like, I don't know about you, but I think the hardest thing about being in a slump is that suddenly reading just feels like it takes so much more effort, or you just don't want to pick up the book in the first place. And then the thing that's been bothering me is I really want to find a book that just totally pulls me in. I want that, like, I'm so excited to read this book feeling again. And I'm just kind of sort of searching for it right now.
Yeah. I mean, with slumps, the thing with me was at some point in the past, I decided that feeling bad about having a reading slump was stupid.
Right.
And expecting a book to solve my problems with my reading slump was also stupid. And I just said, I just don't feel like reading right now. And that's okay.
Right.
That's fine. I'll just have a week where I don't read. Why do I need to feel guilty or anything about that? You know, I can just do other things for a while. Mm-hmm. And that's always worked. I mean, at least eventually, you know, eventually you're like, you know what? I need to pick up a good book.
Yeah.
And you can go into it with like fresh sort of optimistic feeling rather than, I can't read right now. And I really need to find a really awesome book to make me feel readery again. You know, I just leave it. Yeah.
I think it's the oxymoron of like being exhausted from reads, but also still having that I want to read a good book. I just, you know, as opposed to, because I know like last year I had a reading slump where I just didn't read for like 3 or 4 weeks because I didn't want to touch a book, and that was fine.
Yeah. It's not like you don't have enough going on in your life.
No. And the other thing that I've discovered is I'm very heavily in the first draft of my upcoming fantasy Western novel, and which is great because writer brain and reader brain are not the same, but they're kind of connected. Yeah. And so I've discovered that when I am really focused in on a first draft and I'm in the middle of it, my reading brain starts to cool down a little bit, just because I'm so immersed in my own story that I find it difficult to disengage for something else.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah. So
we've talked about this before. Yeah. I am not I'm not a writer at all.
Yet.
But I am absolutely not surprised that when you're trying to make a story of your own, you don't have that much brain space left over for other people's stories.
Nope.
That totally makes sense to me.
And it depends on like what you're writing too. So for example, when I'm working on epic fantasy, I cannot read Erikson because it takes so much of my brain power. He's like the first one to be taken off the TBR because I'm like, I can't manage both of these at the same time.
Speaking of Erikson.
Yes.
Today's a big day. Today.
Yes.
I ordered the Broken Binding first 3 Malazan Book of the Fallen books.
That's exciting.
Yeah, well, it'll be more exciting in like December or whenever they actually arrive.
Christmas present.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, considering that they do it in this sort of stepped release where they do tier 1 subscribers, tier 2 subscribers, blah, blah, blah. There's always a feeling of maybe I won't get it. You know, you never know how many they printed them and like, am I actually going to be able to get one? And I did.
Nice.
Yeah. Brian and I are twinsies. That's absolutely unsurprising. Every time Brian and I talk, I'm always like, dude, me too. Hey,
are we the same person?
Yeah, like if I had run a nightclub, we would be the same person.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I just dropped over $2,000 on my son's orthodontic work this week, so I can't order the Malazan books, and it's killing me just a little bit. But I will be living vicariously through all of your editions.
Yeah, and your kid will have straight teeth.
Yes, yeah.
Which is
well,
pretty
he has what the dentist considers a moderately complex situation going on.
Okay.
Because he's missing some teeth, and so we've got like a lot of work before the appliances go in, and I won't bore everybody with the details. But yeah, this year Ben and I were suddenly like, all right, we are now broke.
Fair enough.
So.
Yeah, I will. When my books arrive, I will make sure to tell you that they're not actually that interesting.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah,
they're like
mid.
Yeah, could have done better.
It is funny though, because when it comes to collecting, and I've said this before, like it took me so long to slowly collect my trade paperbacks that I'm actually pretty happy. Like I'd love to have the Broken Binding editions, obviously, because they're beautiful, but I'm also not a collector the way a lot of people are.
Yeah.
So
I've got a I never realized I had this because I had a long period where I never bought a hardback. I only bought paperback. And then I had a long period after that where I was traveling so much and in so many different places, I got rid of all of my books and bought everything I wanted on a Kindle.
Yep.
Because I could always have it in my pocket, and only when I guess like the last 5 years or so, I kind of settled. I was like, I like Berlin. I've got a nice flat. I've got a little more space than I used to have. This is something Americans don't realize. Like when you live in Europe, unless you're really rich or you live way outside of a city, you don't have any space.
Right.
Like this is almost the biggest flat I've ever had in my life living in Europe. And it's only 90 square meters, which is, let me see. 90 square meters to feet. It is about 1,000 square foot.
Wow.
Which is not huge.
No.
And I live in it by myself. So, all the space is mine and I can do whatever I want with it. But
it was.
Well, yeah, exactly. But
then you got Fitz.
And then I got Fitz. And actually, like adding bookshelves totally meets with Fitz's approval.
Nice.
Because her favorite thing is to sit on top of them.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
So she has the queen-like overview. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm getting to the point where I don't have any wall space where I can put another shelf. So, but as far as collecting goes, I like to buy. I realized after I started getting shelves and kind of settling and actually buying physical books again, just looking at my bookshelf, I like buying nice editions of books I love.
Yeah.
So I'm not collecting in the sense of like resale value and stuff, because I'll never sell them. But I have a folio edition of a few different books, and I've got, I don't know how many Lord of the Rings and related Middle Earth books, and I've got shitty creased paperbacks of Malazan, and it's my favorite series. So
yeah, it's time.
Yeah, exactly. Time to get serious about Malazan finally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you're finally taking that leap, Matt.
Yeah. I'm committing myself to Mr. Erickson.
I'm
Fine.
going to catch up on some comments real quick. False, but I typically avoid content that is heavily interested in books I have not read yet.
Evie posts videos?
That was my second thing. But yeah, that is not true. Let's see. It is interesting. I feel like there's been a big trend in book covers where it's just like an abstract painting of colors. And that's across many different genres, not just like lit fic. And I'm like, okay, like I'm here for it. I like abstract art, fine. But as a book cover,
I can tell you why it's happening. It's cheap.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, as a designer, I look at a lot of those covers, and some of them are I think aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they're not many hours of work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you've got a relatively competent artist, they can make one of those abstract things in half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you can't make a painting of people with swords and dragons and shit in half an hour, no matter how good you are.
Right.
Yeah. It's going to take more time. Therefore, it's going to cost more. So, yeah. I think a lot of it is cheap.
Zin, they already are. This is not new.
Oh, yeah.
This is definitely already happening a lot.
There's a Malazan cover that's AI.
Makes me so mad.
Primarily, I don't have a religious view about AI and AI usage for visual images. I know there are all sorts of ethical issues and I realize all of that, but I don't fundamentally object to AI creating images and people using them for stuff. After, and we're not there yet, after AI doesn't look like AI.
Mm-hmm.
Right? As soon as the half second where I saw the Forge of the High Mage, I was like, oh shit. They've got AI images in the Malazan series now.
Yep.
You can immediately tell. It doesn't even look like they worked on it very long in AI. Like, you can get better images out of Midjourney than what's on the cover of that book. So, pisses me off.
Yeah. It always makes me wonder too, like, having not worked with traditional publishing in the past, I know it really depends, I'm sure, on the publisher and the author and all of those things. But I wonder sometimes, like, how much control, if any, the authors have over a cover. I'm assuming not a lot.
Most authors, none to very little.
Yeah.
Yeah. From what I've heard.
That would drive me bonkers. Just saying.
Yeah. I mean, of course, if you're working in TradPub, you've got, I don't know, 5 or more specialists working on one book.
Right.
You know, and only one of them's the author. And the author is a specialist at writing their story, and that's it. So nobody who is the other specialist, the art director, is going to let the author tell him what to do, because that's not the author's job, and it's not what most authors are good at. Mm-hmm. And it would be awesome if it was more collaborative, but it's an industry, and industry is all about specialization. So,
yep.
Yeah. Robert Heinlein said specialization is for insects. Yeah, actually, it's a much longer quote. Let me look it up, because it's an awesome quote, but the rest of it is much harder to remember.
Yes, Britton, I am. I have this much left.
So here's the entire quote. Robert Heinlein, a human being should be able to change a diaper, plan an invasion, butcher a hog, con a ship, design a building, write a sonnet, balance accounts, build a wall, set a bone, comfort the dying, take orders, give orders, cooperate, act alone, solve equations, analyze a new problem, pitch manure, program a computer, cook a tasty meal, fight efficiently, and die gallantly. Specialization is for insects.
That's a great quote.
Personally kind of doubt that Robert Heinlein can do all of those things.
I doubt most humans can do all of those things.
I don't know if I've ever met anyone who can do all of those things, but yeah.
No.
I appreciate the sentiment.
Yeah, same.
Very much.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. There's the, made me think of it. There's that quote by Teddy Roosevelt about the man in the arena too. Have you ever heard that one?
Don't know it. Hello, Jerome.
I promise I will get back to the comments in just a second, guys.
No problem. Zin, the Subterranean Press Malazan books are going for way too much money.
Agreed.
Crazy amounts of money.
Okay, it's not exactly the same. It's not the same sentiment, but that was a quote. Made me think of this quote also. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat.
In other words, fuck critics.
I wouldn't exactly paraphrase it that way, but sure.
I'm pretty sure that's what he's saying.
Kind of.
That's what he meant.
Yeah.
That's what he meant.
Have you read Titus Grown?
No, I've got it on my shelf. I've been meaning to read it for like 4 decades.
TBR veteran. All right.
I've been aware of Gormenghast for a very long time, and over again heard that it should be good and that it would probably appeal to me. And Evie beat me to it, and I'm a little ashamed. But yeah, I want to read. Gormenghast. Yeah, Theo's here. Hey, Theo.
Hey, Theo.
It's good to see you back on Booktube.
Yes, it's been nice to see his face around.
Yeah.
Same, Theo, honestly. Okay, hold on.
Chadia's here. Hey, Chadia.
Hi, Chadia. Where did I leave off? Oh, hey, Andrew. What's going on?
Wow, you left off way back there.
I'm working on it. It's just because the audience has so many things to say, and I love that because it is never silent over this chat, and I appreciate that. It makes my job easier. Absolutely. Yeah, book hangovers are. I'm trying to think what is the last book you had like a serious book hangover with? I'm trying to remember which one. Like a good one, not one of the.
Actually, I've been really lucky. I've read one bad book this year.
Nice. Do we dare ask which one it was?
I've talked about it before. It was what's it called? In the Shadow of Their Dying. It's indie pub by Grimdark Press. And I
remember you talking about that.
It's really mixed. I think I might like Anna Smith Sparks' part of it. I hated Fletcher's part of it.
Okay.
Like it's a fantasy world, and like 20-30 pages from the end, he has a character who starts saying dude. That's not my only criticism. There were a lot of other things, but like a lot of the writing in it felt like somebody was parodying Grimdark stuff. You know, like everything was piss and shit and blood and weak ale and dog meat, but just over and over again. It
sounds like Grimdark fantasy.
I've read stuff. I mean, I think Malazan is a lot more of a proper readable Grimdark fantasy than a lot of stuff.
I agree.
I am talking about Britain. In the Shadow of Their Dying. I got a free copy. Publisher was nice enough to send it to me. And thank you for that. But wow, it made me not want to read anything by Fletcher ever again.
I mean, if nothing else, it's helpful to know that you can take some things off your TBR, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'd heard about one book by him that Britton actually really loved, which I can't remember the name of it. I'm sure Britton will.
Redemption.
Yeah, yeah. And I'd heard a lot of people saying that was really good. If it's anything like the parts of this other book he wrote, I will never read it. Oh my God. Such poor writing. I just, and not even like, this wasn't for me, like literally poor writing, objectively, quality wise. I thought it was just poorly written. And Anna Smith Spark stuff was well written and kind of experimental. Like I think the division of labor was she wrote the demon, the demon POV in the book.
I think so. Yeah, that sounds.
And the demon was bizarre and hard to read, but because she was actively making it very alien.
Intentional. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was really cool. But the other stuff, I was just like, oh man, I don't even know what to make of this book. I DNF'd it 20 pages from the end.
Yeah, I've heard Baker. I don't know that I will ever read Baker, but I have heard that that's pretty.
I would like to get to those. They sound pretty rough, but a lot of the stuff, it sounds like a lot of the stuff that happens in Baker happens in Malazan as well, or similar-ish. Maybe there's just more of it in Baker, and he's also got the whole kind of nihilistic philosophy thing going on, whereas Erickson is much more positive, I think. I think Daniel's right. Tori doesn't need to read it, but I probably should.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've come to. I enjoy hearing people talk about it, but I think it's one of those series that, like,
I don't think it would be your thing.
No.
There's a lot of very poor treatment of women.
Right. Which, honestly, like, here's the thing, guys. I know I've been talking about doing a video on this for a while, and I will. It's one of those topics that, like, I have to know how I want to talk about it, and I haven't quite gotten to the point where I'm ready to do a full video on it yet. But as a woman, I'm just tired. I'm tired of reading fantasy books where the characters who are the same gender as me are either objectified, violated, murdered horrifically, like, or they're just trophies. Like, and there's a lot of books that aren't that way. And those are the ones that I'm actively seeking out because it's exhausting after a while. And I get to the point where I read a book and I hit a scene like that and I will close the book and not read it because and I do want to clarify too, because I have this conversation all the time. It isn't always that the content is included. It's how it's included that is usually the big problem for me. So that's my soapbox for the day.
And I haven't read Baker, so I can't say anything about what he's written. I've just heard that there's a lot of very poorly treated women. Malazan, there are very specific occasions,
right,
which you haven't gotten to. Some of which you've gotten to.
I was going to say some I definitely have.
Yeah. No, you definitely have gotten to some of it. But there are some really specific, horrific scenes later in the series, especially. And they are, I think the thing I respect the most about the way, or appreciate the most about the way that Erickson dealt with it is they are fucking horrific. Right. I mean, he's not and not dwelled upon for pages and pages, but he's putting them in a way that is very, very clearly, this is a horrible, horrible thing. Right. First of all. Yeah. And they have kind of a purpose in the story. And most of the books are not full of that.
Right.
So he's using it as a very specific point in a certain place. And yeah. But Baker, I can't say anything about.
I hear you, Daniel. I have mixed opinions on this. partially because I think, yes, it is important to explore controversial topics where people can be shown a different perspective on violence or any other, harder topic like that. It's so tricky for me because I'm like, I struggle with the concept that showing it in graphic detail at that level is like, see, this is wrong. See, do you see that this is wrong? You know what I mean? It feels like I don't know that that's always the best way, most often not the best way to drive home the point. I appreciate too, one of the things I really like about Erikson that I loved about his writing when I first read it over 10 years ago was that, and he talked about this when I interviewed him and asked him about how he handles trauma with his characters. He made the comment about how important it was to stay with those characters, that it's not just the moment of impact.
Oh, look, something horrible happened over there. And that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he really stays with those characters, and it's not about it's not about that moment. It's about the whole story of the character. And I think that's why, for me, that lands so much better, because you see the character struggling through the aftermath and the mistakes that they make because of it, and the victories they have when they're overcoming parts of it. So
the main character that you're thinking of, that you've made a video about,
yes,
is like 90% of her story takes place after the horrible things.
Exactly.
I mean, there's more horrible things, of course.
Right.
But like the things that make her so traumatized are a pretty small part of her story. And then the rest of it is after that.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely what you're saying. Like, what does someone do with that? How does someone maybe heal some or climb back up or become something else, whatever.
Yeah.
And like Derry said, Hob. Yeah. Derry, it's good to see you. I wrote you yesterday because I hadn't heard from you in a long time and I was wondering how you're doing. Good to see you.
Thanks for joining us, Derry.
Yeah, she said, I hope you know know you're special. It's 7:30 a.m. Sunday morning in New Zealand.
Yep. Realism. Yeah, I agree. And I agree also that Daughter of the Forest handles it incredibly well. Juliette Marillier is a gem of a human being, and talking with her was delightful. And yeah, Daughter of the Forest, I think, is one of, in my opinion, the most realistic, but also nuanced portrayals of sexual violence in a fantasy novel. I would put Erikson, I think, obviously I've only read the first 4 books, but I think Erikson handled it, at least in those 4 books, pretty well. We're not going to talk about the first section of House of Chains.
I also thought that I mean, it's not a very likable treatment of it, but it's a very interesting treatment of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think he's I think he's coming at it with the right intentionality. There
is absolutely a reason for it, and it's not just hey, let's put this in there for shock value or something.
I think that's the biggest issue I often have with it, because in so many books that I've read, it's the emphasis is placed so much on the moment of impact. I hate calling it that, but for YouTube purposes,
the traumatic moment,
the traumatic event, is that it's written so often in a way that is just straight up wish fulfillment, and I'm going to call it what it is. And that's where I get very angry, because it's like, so you're basically just doing the same thing but on a page. Yeah, because you can, so
yep, I get it. I try. I mean, it's certainly changed throughout my years. And I mean, society and the possibility of being a little more aware has become more widespread. But I used to not notice these things, or notice them not very much. And I've become a lot more aware of it. And obviously I have a distance that you can't have.
Right.
You know, because male. But I have a lot more respect for women than I probably used to.
Well, that's good.
Which is embarrassing to say, but yeah, in the end, it's a good result. And I look at a lot of these things. I mean, even Dresden, like I binged 3 Dresden books this week because I know they're light and they're easy and they're quick and they're fun and they're really creepy male gazy sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I read these years ago and I didn't think anything of it.
Right.
Or it didn't really register. It was just like, oh yeah, okay, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And moving on. And now I keep stopping at those bits and going, what would this book be like if that wasn't there?
Right.
You know? It's just little bits. And I mean, we were talking about it before we went live. I think Butcher does a really good job actually of some interesting female characters. Mm-hmm. And some strong female characters and some complex female characters and, you know, kind of a variety of different kinds of female characters. So it seems to be a very intentional character thing that Harry Dresden is like this.
Right.
You know, that Butcher isn't necessarily like this, but Harry Dresden, the character, is like this.
Yeah.
But it's also, I don't know. Yeah. It always feels like a little speed bump. For
sure. Well, and I think too, like one of the things that I've run into in having these kind of conversations in the book community is it's interesting when I do get pushback about it, because oftentimes I get comments like, well, that's realistic. And I'm like, but that's kind of a straw man argument, because just saying that it's realistic doesn't mean that we should just continue to perpetuate it. And also, like, especially as somebody who like is a woman and is also a sexual violence survivor, I don't need you to tell me that it's like, I'm not opposed to seeing it handled in books, but how it is handled matters so much to me. Hi, Fitz. Fitz is the therapy cat coming to join us for the session.
I'm not trivializing anything you're saying. Just her coming over while I'm on camera is usually
rare.
A once in a stream opportunity. So everybody who wanted to see Fitz, there you go.
There she is. Pippin is sleeping behind my computer right now.
Yeah.
So.
No, Fitz is hanging out right next to me because she thinks it's feeding time, which I feed her at 10 p.m. She starts at about 6 p.m. thinking it's feeding time. And if I stand up, she runs into the kitchen.
Right.
Anytime between 6 and 10. Yeah. But yeah, exactly. I think, yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Lots of things are common and realistic, but as an author, you make a choice of what to put in your book.
100%.
And you don't have to put everything that's common and realistic in your book.
Well, and that's the thing, like in the books that I write, I will deal with survivors of sexual violence. They will be in my books every once in a while, but you will never see me write the actual event. It will never happen because that's not necessary. And to me, I'm so much more interested in the survivor and the aftermath of it and who they become and what they do with that experience. And usually the perpetrators will be completely off screen and unnamed because that's what they deserve. And like that's how I choose to handle it. And I recognize that that's not like the way to handle it. I'm not saying that, but no, it's just for me personally, it
sounds like a good way to handle it.
I hope so.
Maybe not the only good way to handle it, but certainly a good way to handle it.
Exactly.
Makes sense to me.
Zamar, I only have book 2 here. I just got Zamar's new books yesterday. The other one is on my nightstand because I'm hoping to read it in August.
Ah, cool.
But these just came out. This is book 2.
Don't know those. Nice.
It's so pretty. Book 2, it's a duology, finished duology, and they're super pretty. I'm excited. The first one is Riven Earth, and I've been hearing amazing things, so I can't wait to check it out. Yeah, exactly. Britain. And like, that's something that is also one that I try to, I deal with that a lot in my writing typically, is like, I put like, there are child characters in perilous situations a lot in my stories. And for me, because that was such a normal thing, like I'm kind of exploring that through my writing as well, but it's kind of the same thing where I've drawn those lines of like how I'm going to portray it and how I'm going to deal with
what
it.
you're
And
not going to show.
Exactly.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So let me see if I missed any other questions. But one of the things I wanted to ask you,
do you have a Booktube-esque list of 40 questions prepared?
I don't have I didn't write a single question on a piece of paper for this Motley Crew, because usually we end up talking for 3 to 4 hours.
We do this just not live.
Just not live.
Relatively often, so yeah.
Who's Mab?
Mab is a badass, scary female character in Dresden.
I've heard the name before.
Yeah. She's one of the fairies.
In terms of a concept?
Or in terms of actually murdering authors?
I'm against that.
I know some authors. I would prefer no one killed them.
Matt just wants me to stay alive long enough to finish the Bruhai trilogy, and then
well, and I'm also looking forward to
Cold Silver.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, reading in the middle of Lonesome Dove, it's not going to be as grimdark as Lonesome Dove. Sorry to burst any bubbles.
I'll tell you, Lonesome Dove is a Western, and it's more grimdark than most grimdark.
Totally is.
It's so grim and it's so dark.
Well, because that was one of my questions. So one of the things that I think is really interesting is when primarily fantasy readers overlap into other genres, because a lot of us enjoy, books out of other genres. Yeah. And one of the things that I always go back to is I want to do 10 books that aren't fantasy that epic fantasy fans would love.
It's funny. I was actually, while I was drinking my coffee this morning, I was thinking of something quite similar.
Brain cell.
And yeah, I was thinking of that, and all like the subgenres of fantasy and all that sort of stuff. And I was just thinking, it's been so long since I've read very much of that I don't have very much to choose from, where I could say, okay, if you love Malazan, then you'd love these other books. I'd probably have a list that would be like books by Paul Auster, books by Peter Carey, books by Ishiguro. I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't got that many to choose from, but
I really want to read Ishiguro soon. I've started Never Let Me Go like 3 times, I think. And it was just always one of those books that I was in the middle of a bunch of other reads and I didn't feel like I could give it enough attention, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it needs some attention. It's a slow book. And it sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
Like by the end, when things sort of become clear what exactly is going on, I was so invested in the characters that I was like really heartbroken. Just because what's coming.
Yeah.
And yeah. But it was good enough that it made me buy everything else that Ishiguro had ever written.
Love that.
So I have all of it, and I want to work through it slowly from the beginning. So yeah. What's it called? A Pale View of Hills, or a view of Pale View of Hills? Yeah. I'll read soon.
That was so I read Guards in January, and then I read Men at Arms, which is book 2 of Pratchett's Discworld City Watch series in
I think Derry's head just exploded. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah. Derry was very excited that I was reading Discworld finally. But Ben and I are listening to them on audiobook because John Culshaw's version of the audiobooks is just absolutely, like, I'm not an audiobook person, and I think John Culshaw may single-handedly convince me to love audiobooks. And I absolutely love it. But we finished Men at Arms, and I got home and hadn't even finished the book yet, and we went in and I just bought the entire Death Cycle, the entire City Watch. I'm like, Pratchett's going to be an all-time favorite author for me, I think, and I'm just loving it.
Pratchett's awesome. Yeah, no, yeah. I did similar, not quite as over the top, because I'm buying the compact hardbacks.
Yep.
And they cost a little more, but I bought Guards. Though. They're gorgeous. I bought Guards, and then I went out after I read it. I went out and bought the rest of the City Watch, and we'll see what I go to next after that. Nice. Here we go. For the Fitz fans out there.
There she is.
There she is. She doesn't like it.
She's camera shy.
She doesn't want to be on camera.
She's like, doesn't she know she has an adoring public?
I don't think so.
I love that Maine Coon cats just look like you have a
small tiger or a small lion,
like a bobcat in your house.
Yeah.
Vicious. I always tell Ben, with like, the cats are just, doing whatever. They jump up at the window to try to scare away birds or something. And I'm always like, we have domesticated carnivores in our house. How awesome is that?
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Fitz's favorite thing. I mean, we don't get many birds because she can't get outside on the balcony, which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I have the high up, I have old European windows. So, wooden frames, and they open like this. And I have 2 rows. I have small ones at the top and big ones at the bottom. And I open the small ones at the top because she can't get to them, jump out of the 2nd story window.
Yeah.
But because of that, I end up with bugs in my flat. And that's her favorite sport right now.
Of course.
Bug hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every once in a while we get a fly in our house, and it doesn't last very long.
Yeah. The newish, Brian says, the newish printings of Discworld now until are yuck. They are so yuck. I hate that format.
That's like the entire set that I just bought.
I don't own them, so it's fine.
It's
Brian
funny,
doesn't own them.
Because like the City Watch, I'm just going to listen to the whole thing on audio. I probably won't even crack open the first page of most of those. Okay. And Derry, I completely agree. Peter Serafinowicz plays Death, and Bill Nye reads all of the footnotes. And I have to clarify, because there's been some confusion about this, not Bill Nye the science guy. Bill Nye,
just going to ask.
Davy Jones. Bill Nye.
Okay. I was just going to ask. Bill Nye the science guy is narrating?
Thank goodness, no.
No, that would be very different.
Yes. But yeah, it's amazing, and I love it so much. Yeah, I think it really depends on whether or not, because I have such a hard time focusing on anything auditory, that it really has to hold my attention, and most audiobooks just don't. So, but the Discworlds,
it's not the audiobooks problem. It's not you, it's me. It's I can't listen to audiobooks if I'm just
sitting. Yeah.
Because I will fall asleep. Immediately.
Reading you a bedtime story. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's weird because it's probably bedtime story flashbacks. My mom used to read me bedtime stories, and it's probably just like baked into my brain since I was a kid that when someone's reading a story to you, you just fall asleep. Mm-hmm. I can't really do it.
Yeah.
And I don't get out and run around the city like I used to when I had a job that I had to go to, which was when I listened to audiobooks.
Nice. Yeah.
In the trains, because I had an hour and a half every day, 45 minutes there and back. I would just listen to audiobooks, and that was perfect. And I couldn't really fall asleep because I had to change trains and, whatever.
Keeps you awake.
Stare at all the weird people on the train, and
that's the most fun part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a photo series. Hello, Stepan. I did a photo series many years ago on when I had an hour one-way commute in Sydney. I took candid photos of people on trains who didn't know I was taking their photo, which, you can talk about the ethics of that if you want. I'm sure a lot of people think that's horrible, but it's a pretty standard street photography practice, and technically legal, at least that much. And got some really, really cool photos. It's amazing how interesting and beautiful people can be when they're just bored on a train and they happen to have good light on them or whatever,
Absolutely.
Exactly, Evie. That's called street photography. Yes.
Thank you so much.
You are correct, Stepan.
I'm assuming Bloodstone. Yeah. I remember seeing your review. Thank you.
Do you know Stepan?
I don't think so.
He's also an author. I know him through Brian's channel.
Okay.
He's a Booktube fan. And Brian has mentioned him, and I know that Stepan's got a book or more than one book. I'm not sure. But yeah.
I will check out his books. Let's see.
Derry, it is not stalking. It would be stalking if I photographed someone on the train and then followed them home. But I wasn't doing that. It is, as Evie said, street photography. I used to do it with an actual camera. On the trains, I was doing it with my phone. And the trick was you can, on an Apple, on an iPhone anyway, you can push the volume thing on your headphones.
Yeah.
When you have your camera open, and it'll take a photo.
Interesting.
So I'd always put my headphones in and just sort of back of my phone, sort of randomly aim it, and then just take a lot of photos while moving around a little bit because I couldn't see what I was shooting exactly, and then just pick out one of them. And I did that all over the world. I did it in Sydney, Hong Kong, London. I don't know where else, but yeah, lots of places. New York. Yeah.
Nice. You definitely should, Alicia. It's really beautiful. I'm trying to catch up. I'm behind again.
Yeah.
I can't either, Anitha. I'm so excited.
Me too. For anyone who doesn't know, I'll be the tech and marketing department for a moment.
Awesome. Thank you. I need it.
There was an anthology of short stories, which was crowdfunded. It was called The Advent of Winter. And Tori wrote a cool story in that. What was the story actually called? Was it called Cold Silver for Souls?
It was, yes.
Yeah. So Cold Silver for Souls. And yes, exactly. And it stars a lady bounty hunter necromancer in a Yukon-ish fantasy world.
Yep.
So there's zombies and badass chicks and cold.
For some of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
So it's definitely like there's like the Yukon half, and there's the like it's definitely somewhere between a fantasy Western and a fantasy Yukon, which isn't a subgenre yet, but it will be. And
I mean, fantasy Western is kind of a subgenre.
Oh yeah, but fantasy Yukon isn't yet.
Fantasy Yukon specifically, no.
Yeah,
that's true.
We'll get it there.
Yeah. Fantasy Gold Rush.
Fantasy Gold Rush, exactly.
Yeah.
Which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, me too. I'm only slightly disappointed that it's keeping you from getting the second Brewhigh book out.
It's interesting though, because I think just the way that this year has gone, Cold Silver has kept me writing, to be honest. I think without Cold Silver, I probably wouldn't have gotten anything out this year and wouldn't have been able to write. So,
writing Cold Silver and not writing The Queen's Wolf is better than not writing. So yeah, do that.
And it is, The Queen's Wolf is still being worked on. I promise you guys, you'll not have to wait for it for a decade. My plan is 2025. That's still the goal. But it was something that I really needed to take a step back from to do it justice. And
let's make a deal right now. If it takes more than 5 years for you to get that out, you have to start wearing a little Greek fisherman's cap and a vest.
Okay, deal.
Like George.
Yeah, deal.
Cool.
I'll even get like a crochet beard.
But you have to wear it all the time.
If it takes me 5 years to write Queen's Wolf, I will deserve that.
Indeed.
It won't take me that long.
I agree.
I promise.
I agree. I might actually Photoshop that photo.
Please do. Well, Brian's already Photoshopped the disco version of me, so, you know. So for more on this, Zamar, you should go subscribe to Matt's channel so that you can keep an eye out for, I think you're hosting the discussion in August.
Yeah.
Which will probably be spoilers, so obviously somewhat. But
Zamar, in case you don't know, we hosted on the Fireside Discord I run with 2 other friends, Joanna and Josh. We hosted a read-along, which some people are still in the middle of. I think Tori hasn't finished, Britton hasn't finished. I finished earlier this week. But Tori's thoughts on the book.
What I will say before the full official thing is I can completely understand why this book is considered a classic of Western literature. It is epic. It reads very similarly in some ways to a character-driven epic fantasy.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, very similar to that. With that being said, it is very nihilistic and bleak, and it is... I'm not going to get into the female characters because we just had an entire conversation about that topic. But as you might imagine, sucks to be a woman in this book, basically. So I don't know. Like it's very well written. I will give it that. I'm ready to I love parts of it. How can I put that more diplomatically?
I'm a little. I expected to like it more.
Yeah.
Which is not to say I didn't like it. I did like it a lot. But a lot of people, it's like they read it last year and said it was their book of the year and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, it was very good.
Yeah.
But it's the biggest theme of the book is in the title.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's kind of bleak.
Yep.
Like every single character used to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a bit too bleak for me to really love it.
Well, and one of the things that I definitely want to talk about once we all sit down to chat is what's so interesting to me about this is one of my favorite characters in the book is Newt, who is a young kid who is literally having his coming of age story amidst this backdrop of just pure unhappy people, nihilism, and death. And I find him very intriguing because, you know, as fantasy fans, we all coming of age stories are just kind of like par for the course. And I do find it very interesting when you drop young people into situations hard situations when they're trying to figure out who they are and, you know, the struggle that comes with that. So I've found him very compelling through this whole story. Yeah. And he's not my only favorite character, but there are a number of very likable characters, but hey, Darko,
good to see you, man.
We were talking about Lonesome Dove. He appears.
Yeah. I mean, what Brian just said, that is probably the biggest thing I got out of it is life outside of civilization is really, really
scary,
difficult, and scary. And I would not survive. Most of us, I think, wouldn't. It's just like so rough. Like the weather apparently wants to kill you, and every
All of
animal
the
you run
creatures,
into
all of the
wants to
people.
kill you, and every river wants to kill you, and pretty much all of the people you meet want to kill you.
Yeah.
And accidents also basically randomly just want to kill you.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Rough. Yeah, Darko on the far side, we were talking about it, and Darko had similar black problems with it that you had woman problems with it. Understandably. It wasn't a great time to be a black person or a female person.
No.
And it's I think probably pretty realistic portrayal of that, but it still doesn't necessarily mean it's fun to read.
Yeah. I think I could probably say, if I'm thinking through the list of characters, I would say Dietz is my number 1 or number 2, honestly. He's probably
Dietz was awesome.
Dietz is an amazing character.
Yeah. Dietz was also definitely on my favorites list.
But I can completely see why, like, there are so many things around that where it just makes me irritable, like just irritable reading it. So I can imagine. Yeah, no, there's a lot of Dietz is so cool. Dietz was definitely on my top We'll
3.
put it this way: a lot more people would have died a lot faster without Dietz.
Absolutely, the whole thing wouldn't have worked.
This is an excellent point, Derry. Although I can't run to save my life,
I owned a bow, and I'm good at shooting it, and I own 2 swords, which if the apocalypse is a zombie apocalypse, then I'm set.
Yeah.
I'm well set. I'd have to sharpen one of the swords, but otherwise
details.
Yeah. And learn how to make arrows. Like, I'd probably run out too quickly. But yeah.
That was one thing. So when I was in college, we had a professor who actually had us make obsidian arrowheads in class for
like napping them.
Yep. It was so cool. It was so cool.
Cool.
And yeah, that was one of my favorite class periods, I think, in 4 years of college. He was an amazing professor. He was my sociology and ancient world history professor, and he was just awesome.
That is really cool. I know how to make a bow, but arrows are much more difficult because they're very thin and they have to be straight. Otherwise, they don't really work.
Yep.
So even the selection of the wood you use for it is super important.
Right.
But yeah, Monty Adkins' books says head to the nearest army base. MREs are last 5 years. See, this shows me, Monty, that you've never seen a post-apocalyptic show, because the people who are most paranoid after the apocalypse are the military, and they will shoot you on sight. You don't want to get anywhere near an army base unless you have a really large army. If you're one of the zombies, you can attack a military army base. But yeah, Mythbusters proved an axe was the best weapon versus zombies. Yeah, I don't actually own an axe.
That's probably one of the first weapons I would go for, to be honest.
See, I don't know. I mean, as far as like the ability
in terms of comfort level, like,
yeah, but it's as far as the ability to destroy someone's head, like zombies, brains, probably an axe. But I would have the reach advantage because I got a really long sword. Like, I've got Anduril, Anduril.
Of course, then.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm very graceful with the katana. Thank you very much.
There you go. Katana, yeah, with zombies. Again, I'm thinking I just don't want them getting anywhere near me. And
see, it depends on here. Okay, if we're really going to go here with the logistics, because the real question
of course we are.
Of course we are. We're fantasy fans. the question is, what kind of zombies are we talking about? Because we've seen the full, how fast are they moving? If we're talking Walking Dead style zombies, give me a katana, I'll be fine. I'm not worried about it. They're slow, they're dumb, they'll eat you if they get a hold of you, but they got to get a hold of you.
There was a pretty badass lady with a katana in Walking Dead.
Michonne is
She did
awesome.
pretty good.
Yes. And the nice thing is you don't run out of bullets with blades, which is lovely.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah, as an actual archer, I don't know if I've ever seen a fantasy movie or show that portrayed archery in anything near any kind of slightly realistic way. Like
Katniss Everdeen didn't do it. Okay.
Like if you're using a bow, all you're doing is using a bow. Mm-hmm. You don't switch from a bow to another weapon. Mm-hmm. Like in the time it takes you to do that, you're dead. Mm-hmm. You don't use your bow in rain because rain stretches your string, mm-hmm. and then your bow doesn't have any tension, making it useless. You don't put a strung bow across, like over your shoulder across your body, because that also stretches your string, destroys your bow, makes your bow useless. Anyway, so if we had a base and a place I could stand and just snipe zombies, definitely bow. But otherwise, bastard sword.
So basically, we've got a pretty good little Motley Crew army to take on the zombie apocalypse here on Booktube.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes, Ida. That's the other thing that nobody ever does in a fantasy movie. You unstring your bow. If you leave your bow strung all the time, it will not work very well anymore because it stretches the string. Like the biggest problem when you're shooting is stretching your string. You can fight it by twisting it, like old strings. Like I had an old string on my bow and I would just twist it 3-5 times before I strung my bow. And that gives it a bit more tension back, but it doesn't work forever. Yeah. But you don't carry it around strung. Like you string it right before a battle. And if you survive, you unstring it right afterwards.
See, the problem with this theory is that Matt has much more of a chance of reaching a castle than I do.
I can tell you where numerous castles are. You just need to come over.
Okay. I will get on a plane as soon as there's a zombie apocalypse. Fly over to Berlin.
Yep.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Zin, any kind of bow but a modern compound bow. Modern compound bows work on an entirely different... You'd steal a boat and wait it
out. Rogue's just offshore a little ways fishing.
Yeah, it better be a big boat with a lot of food and fresh water.
Right.
Yeah, modern compound bows are something that I personally just avoid. It just feels like the bow's doing too much for you. Like if it doesn't...
I can't draw them, so...
You can. You would need to get a lower draw weight. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Brian would be selling zombie merch. Yes, you would.
Zombie flasks.
Yes, yep. Exactly. Flasks made of zombie hide. Ew. Yeah. Yeah.
Gross.
No.
Yeah, there you go. See, I haven't seen Last of Us yet. I was waiting until the hype died down a little bit.
Last of Us, you shouldn't see it.
You should
play it.
Okay.
Play it and then watch the movie.
Yes. Okay. Perfect segue. Let's talk about games.
That's right. We were just talking about Subnautica.
So that's something that like I love gaming, and I know it's such a big overlap in the fantasy community. And sometimes I even find people that have played the same games as I have, which is lovely. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Brian and I have been texting quite a lot about Baldur's Gate 3 lately. He's playing it. I played it when it came out, and he's playing it now. Okay. He's got much more self-control than I do. Like, I'm one of those people, I'll sit down at like 5 p.m. and start playing, and then I
You're
hear
not done.
birds singing.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
I get way too into a game like that, which
I've
is
watched a little bit of playthrough, but
good. It's good. It's I actually expected it would annoy me, because what I don't want a video game to be is Dungeons and Dragons. What I mean by that is, if the thing that's really interesting about Dungeons and Dragons is the beer and pizza.
Sure.
Right? You're sitting around a table with friends and you're laughing and you're doing stuff together and whatever. And then having a game that's rolling dice for you, I'm just like, why would I want that? But it's
I would have
actually
expected
a really
you
good
to be
game.
like a massive Dungeons and Dragons nerd.
I am. I totally am. But like I said, the point of Dungeons and Dragons is the beer and the pizza.
Sure.
Right?
It's the friends we make along the way.
It's the friends we met around the table. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I don't need, and rolling
you don't
dice.
want that in a video game.
Well, rolling dice around a table
Sure.
is an exciting event.
Sure.
Everyone's staring. Are you going to hit the dragon or not? And
right.
And everybody cheers when you get a good roll and whatever. But when I saw the videos of Baldur's Gate 3 and it shows a 20 being rolled on the screen, I'm like, why would I want a game to do that? Especially since it's just kind of bullshit set dressing or window dressing. It's like the computer already knows what the number is. Like,
right.
All it's doing is wasting my time. But I loved it. It was a great game. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Darko says Last of Us is favorite video game of all time.
It's so good. It's so good. Witcher 3, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Last of Us. The first Last of Us.
Those are your three favorites?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Red Dead Redemption was one that I was kind of side-eyeing too.
Not the first one. I mean, the first one is good, but RDR2 is really good.
Nice.
Jenny Wirtz.
I just saw that
in the chat.
Hi, Jenny. I don't doubt for a second that finding Janny would be a smart option during a zombie apocalypse, to be honest with you.
Exactly. When the zombie apocalypse comes, we will all go to
Janny's house, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That makes sense. Yeah. Witcher 3, yeah. Yes, Darko, I love you.
Skyrim.
Is Skyrim, I didn't, when Skyrim came out, I played it like that much. Like very little. And then a couple of weeks ago, I was like, I've been on a media that I missed project, sort of. And I went back and I played Skyrim quite a bit. And yeah, it's still actually pretty good. I mean, the graphics are garbage, but
but it's held up really well.
The mechanics and the story and everything, it's actually pretty damn good.
So Skyrim is probably the video game I've put the most hours in on out of all of them. It single-handedly helped me survive college. And we actually bought the PlayStation 3 just so we could play the game of Skyrim because we tried it on a friend's PS3 and we were like, we need this in our lives. And we were newly married college students who were buried under the weight of degrees and classes and everything else. And we needed something to do. And it was really fun because it ended up being Ben and I and our best friend Grunky would come over because he was in college with us at the time. And
wait a sec. Grunky?
That's his last name. Grunky.
Okay.
Yeah. His first name is Mike, but nobody calls him that.
Okay. If I had a friend whose last name was Grunky, I would also.
You would also call exactly.
It sounds funny, like though. Some sort of like monster in a D&D ripoff.
It is funny though.
Oh no, Grunkies are coming.
When we go stay at their house, like the whole family name is Grunky, right? And we still call him Grunky even around all of the other Grunkies. Their names are normal, Aaron, Megan, etc.
All of the other Grunkies.
But yeah, we would take turns playing our characters, and it was very social. Like we'd sit in the living room and watch each other play, and like it became this whole like it was a lot more social than just the isolated playing my character in a game, which was fun. I love that game so much. I feel so at home in that game. It's just like it's like a breath of relief every time.
Yeah. I had a girlfriend who, and this is really strange in my experience of girlfriends, who loved to sit next to me and watch me play games.
Nice. Yeah.
She didn't really get into playing games, but it was like she was watching a movie or something.
I love watching playthroughs.
Yeah.
I do.
I don't.
I love it.
I don't.
I think it depends on the game. Some of the games I don't want to spoil myself for. Subnautica, I watched the entire playthrough before I even Oh yeah, I've seen
what?
Matt, there was no way. Okay, no. It makes sense. Give me a minute here. So
I know.
I would never have played that game without knowing what I was getting into. Sure. And it was amazing watching the playthrough without having the crushing like terror of seeing things for the first time myself, playing the game. So I wouldn't have played the game without that.
I mean, yeah, I don't like watching playthroughs because the main thing, no.
Love it.
The main thing in a good game for me is discovery and story. Mm-hmm. So I love open world games if they're well done. I mean, if you've got a big open world and there's nothing in it, that's boring. But a big open world like Skyrim, where around every corner you find something weird, is interesting. And games that have a cool story, I love. Yeah. So watching a playthrough would just ruin everything about a game for me.
I only do it with games that I'm interested in seeing. Like I want to experience the game, but I don't necessarily want to play. Like I didn't ever see myself playing through Subnautica. I didn't think I would ever be able to do it.
But you are playing Subnautica.
But I am. But I'm very glad that I saw it first. I would not have survived it. I would have DNF'd the game like 30 minutes in probably. So for those of you who don't know, if you don't know what Subnautica is, it's basically a game where you're on a spaceship that crash lands on a alien planet that is 98% ocean. And you have to survivor, resource gather, and build your way out of the game, essentially. And I have severe thalassophobia, fear of the open ocean, and I also have severe claustrophobia. And I'm also afraid of being far underground. So if you put all three of those things together and you play Subnautica, you can see why I wanted to watch a playthrough of it before I did it.
Totally makes sense.
And because I know what to expect, I'm enjoying my experience of the game a lot more. So yeah. So that one specifically, like Skyrim, I don't even know if, there were playthroughs. How long ago did that come out?
Long time ago.
Yeah. There were, you didn't watch playthroughs.
12 years ago or something?
Yeah. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I loved watching. So I'm a big Jacksepticeye fan. For those of you that are in the gaming world that watch playthroughs. And so I watched him play through it and really enjoyed that. And then I was like, I'm surprising myself, but I kind of want to I'm big on exposure therapy. I've worked really hard on my fear of snakes over the years, and I can now be in the room with one in a glass cage without having a panic attack. We're making progress. But I saw the gameplay and I was like, this might be a fun way to confront that fear a little bit in a very
without getting wet,
without actually going and jumping in the middle of the ocean. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Which I would never do. You could not pay me enough money to get on a cruise ship. It will never happen. Will never happen. Okay. Will never happen.
I am the exact opposite. I'm happier in water.
I love being in water if I can see, if I love to swim, but not.
Okay. But you don't like the open underneath you, land anywhere nearby. Okay.
Nope. Nope. Like, nope. Like, it's bad enough that when you're scrolling through like Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and it's like, do you have thalassophobia? And it's like one of those pictures that's like meant to, trigger somebody with it. And I will literally like close the tab because I'm just like, I can't even look at pictures of the open ocean.
But you're playing Subnautica and it's not triggering that.
It is, but it's like little bits at a time. My children are watching me play it and they've been having a great time. But they are not afraid of those things. And so they're like, let's go, mom, let's go down there. Let's go in there. And I'm just like, just hold on a second. I'm not ready for that yet. It's funny though, because the worst part so far, I love swimming around in the shallows and like fishing and like gathering resources and stuff. I love resource building games. So like,
and it's got great base building as well.
Oh, amazing base building!
I built a crazy huge base.
I'm working on mine. I'm so
all
excited.
over the place in Subnautica.
Yeah.
Yep.
I played like 260 hours of Valheim in the last couple of years. Loved Valheim.
You played Valheim?
Yeah, I played Valheim. Yeah, before it was cool.
Before it was cool.
But yeah, my favorite. The hardest part of Subnautica so far, to be honest, is when you find the big wreck pieces and you have to swim inside the wreck pieces, and that is
those are both wet and claustrophobic.
Yeah, right. And they're also like tilted, so you get in there and nothing's the right way
and
up,
you can't
and
find
you
your
can't
way
remember.
out.
Yep, it's not.
I drowned in a lot of wrecks.
I haven't yet because I am so like overly freaked out about it that I'll go in like one room and go back out, and then go through two rooms and then go back out.
See, I have the problem. I don't have any hesitance to like. I get in there and I'm like, "Where's the next door? Okay, where's the next door? Where's the next door? Oh, my oxygen. Can I get back? No, I can't get back. I'm dead."
Oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, the funny thing is when it comes to like, I was really excited when they give you one of your survival tools in the beginning is you can make a knife, and it's like the only weapon you get, right? It's for a while.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where like, now that I have that, I'm like, I might just swim out there and see what happens if I go a little barbarian on some of these larger fish.
Yeah, you can try that.
Yeah. So that scares me honestly less than the like inside the wrecks mazes and stuff. Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of places that you can pretty safely swim around, and and it's beautiful. That's one of the things. I mean, I have a diving license, so like
nice.
I obviously don't have any problem with
Michael.
I don't have any problem with water. And it reminded me so much of diving around Sydney.
That would be cool.
Like the amazing like fish and sharks. I dove with sharks near Sydney, which was interesting. And just coral and all the stuff you see. It's like being in another world,
Yeah. I would try that eventually, I think, if I could get to a point where like it was contained, there was a professional with me, and it wasn't like you can like, because the coral reefs are cool, right? Like you can see stuff. There's not just nothing underneath you for
no. I mean,
miles.
when you're doing a basic diving license, I think the deepest dive we did in the course was 5 meters.
Okay.
Yards approximately, or maybe it was 10, but it like you can see
right
below you because you're close enough to the surface that there's light. I mean, it's not super dark or anything, and all of the places are very easy, of course, because they don't want anyone drowning, of course. Disco Elysium is the coolest game. It's a weird game. It's a really weird game because most of the game you read it.
Okay.
It's got a like isometric view screen, but it's got like on the right side, it's got a column which is just text, and you get text for all sorts of things. And it's amazingly well written. It's got a super interesting sort of sci-fi-ish, but also nostalgia-ish kind of world.
Sure.
And you play an alcoholic cop.
Okay.
Who is into disco. And a lot of really weird things happen. It's very weird. It's extremely hard to describe it in any way that would make you want to play it. But look up a playthrough.
Okay.
Or some footage of Disco Elysium. It's so much fun. It's all voice acted now, Brian says. Okay.
Cool.
That's kind of a pity, because I actually liked the text. I mean, it was voice act. I think when I played it, it was voice acted, but you still have the text, so you can read it and you get voiceover.
I've never seen it, and I never will. Nope.
I saw it in the theater when I came out, which was a mistake on the part of my mother, because I was too young to see Jaws, and I did not deal with it well at the time at all, and ran out of the cinema crying. But since then, I've seen it. I love it.
See, I saw the Poseidon Adventure when I was 11. And I had nightmares for months after that movie. And that's one of the reasons why I will never be on a cruise ship, because the idea of being stuck inside a ship in the water is like, that's the worst part of the open water fear, is the idea of being stuck in something in the ocean. Especially if it's upside down. Like, I can't. Nope.
These things never even occurred to me. I used to go sailing with my dad, and we'd go like out into the ocean on a relatively small boat, like 11-meter, 33-foot boat. I
would maybe do that. Maybe
till you couldn't see land, and I always found it very peaceful. See, as long as it's not a storm.
If the boat tips over, you jump out of it. That's like that, that's better.
Yeah. And I mean, you could always, like where we were, there's also just logistics. There's also a pretty good chance of getting picked up.
Right. Exactly.
And if something's going really wrong, you've got a radio, and yeah.
Brian, you were wrong. It's such a good game. It's such a good game. I've just started replaying it, and I'm still in love with it.
What I want to see now is that Bethesda updates the formula that they started 14 years ago with Skyrim, because everything they've done since then is Skyrim, basically.
Just trying to repeat the success.
Starfield came out, and I was like, wow, this looks like a really cool space game.
I will say
it's Skyrim in space, and not as good as Skyrim.
I will say, so I've played Morrowind, Oblivion, Elder Scrolls Online, and Skyrim. And Morrowind is very good. Oblivion was the first one I played. And that was the one that got me hooked on Elder Scrolls in general.
Right.
I think Oblivion is like, Skyrim kind of took over, but Oblivion, in my opinion, is phenomenal. The Thieves Guild run in Oblivion is incredible. It's one of my favorite things I've ever played.
I just did the Thieves. The Thieves Guild in Skyrim has a very, very fundamental problem.
One
really big problem.
The Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim is amazing, but
I might have to do that. The Thieves Guild has one really big problem. You get almost to the end, and then you get a lockpick that can never break, and you're meant to give that up to continue. I'm like, no, I don't care enough about the end of this quest
right
to give up a lockpick that will never break.
Right.
So I've got like 90% of the Thieves Guild storyline done, and I'm just never going to finish it.
You need to try Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim.
Yeah. No, I haven't.
I also have a fear of heights, Britain. I like the ground.
Ground is good. And not hitting it at high speed is
exactly
even better.
Or going underneath it. Yeah. You're right, Derry. Like, and that's the thing is I'm willing to try things. Like, I would go sailing. We live on Lake Pepin, which is a little like widened out part of the Mississippi River. And Like I would go sailing on that because I can see shore in all directions. That doesn't bother me. I've been tubing on lakes. I live in a state that's literally the land of 10,000 lakes. So like I've, been in lakes my whole life, but yeah, it's different than the ocean. Lake Superior is a little different. Lake Superior is huge, and I've been up there a lot, and I don't know, like those barge ships that come in are massive. So
yeah, I mean, the first time I was up there, I've only been, was I in Minnesota? Where was I? Somewhere up there near the Great Lakes. And the first time I that was the first time in my life I'd ever been to a lake where you couldn't see the other side.
Yep.
And
it is literally a small ocean. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was really, really bizarre. Like, look on a map and I'm like, yeah, it's a lake, but lakes have shores and this one doesn't. It only has one shore.
Right.
Very strange. It felt like going to the beach, only without waves.
Yeah, exactly.
What I really like about being out in the middle of the ocean, like sailing with my dad was always cool, partially obviously because it was with my dad, but also because when you get out in the middle of the ocean, like you can't see land, you realize just how small you are.
Mm-hmm.
And how big the world is, and that's a really interesting feeling. You don't get that on land, except in the middle of a desert, maybe.
I would disagree with that simply because, from my experience, so I live in rural Minnesota. I've lived here my whole life. 8th generation Southeast Minnesotan, right? When you're out in the middle of just, like, especially the western half of Minnesota, and there's just nothing but prairie and cornfields and it's just this huge dome of blue, and it's like the wide open spaces,
Yeah.
I feel like it's similar. The ocean, I think, is different just because there's also nothing underneath you. So it's like on both ends.
I mean, also just the feeling, like no matter where you are on land, that's where stuff is.
Yeah.
Like there are roads and lights and buildings and people and all of that. And like, if you're in the middle of the ocean, there's nothing.
Right.
I mean, none of your stuff anyway. Like there's a lot below you, lots of fish and monsters and stuff. But
thanks, Matt.
Like you just have the feeling like that you're really in the middle of nothing. It's the closest feeling to being in space. I imagine anyway. I haven't been in space, but yeah. It's a really, really interesting experience.
Too many levels of escape from death scenario. Is that a game? Or just in general? Yeah, so there's a mine in northern Minnesota called the Sudan Mine. I think it's up by Ely, Minnesota. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've been there. But I think that was made me feel very small in its own way too, because to get down to the actual mine, you get into this rickety old metal lift and it goes down forever. Forever. Like the amount of earth that is on top of you is like, you can't even use numbers for it. And I can't remember how many stories down they said it goes, but we were on that lift for ages. And then you get out and the mine shaft is only like, I want to say maybe 10 feet tall at most. And that was, I think, where some of my underground concerns came in, was because I'm trying to remember, I was probably 14 when we went there. And I was like, I don't like the idea of being in a tiny, dark space that far down under the ground. I'm just not about it.
The space part doesn't worry me. I don't really mind enclosed spaces, but I have been underground sometimes, and just the idea of there being so much earth and stone above you, it definitely made me nervous.
Oh yeah.
You know, that feels weird.
Yes.
Yeah. In nature, where there are no people, man is very small. Yeah.
Weird. But yeah, very true. Yes, Derry, 100%. Yeah, like I would like less steps between the death scenario and me getting out of it. 100%.
Yeah.
See, but it's just the idea of the vast expanse of nothingness that is the ocean, especially underneath you.
It's not nothing.
I know, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. But I mean, that getting a diving license completely changed my, like I used to sail when I was a kid, I'd sail with my dad. And when you're on a boat in the ocean does feel like a whole bunch of nothing. You know, it just feels like this big horizontal, flat, mostly usually surface. And you have no idea what's in it. And diving gave me a totally different feeling for it. It was like visiting another planet. It's like, oh, the thing I see all the time is just where it begins.
Right.
Know?
Right.
And then beneath that, there's an amazing amount of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And really, really interesting stuff, you know. But
yeah. I just don't want to be dragged down into it.
No, I understand. Yeah. I mean, the good thing is there's very few things in the ocean that want to drag you down into it.
That's true.
In fact, kind of none. You know.
And then there's Subnautica.
Subnautica is another planet.
It is, yes. You know, it's funny because Lake Superior is like, it's its own beast. That is a gnarly body of water. Like the number of shipwrecks and just the crazy natural things that happen on Lake Superior. It's pretty, it's not a safe lake. We'll put it that way.
No. It's any body of water. I went swimming in the Baikal Lake in Russia, which is also, it's not the biggest lake in the world, but it's the deepest lake in the world. And I think it's the largest cubic volume of water in a lake in the world because of that. And it's also, depending on where you are, it's also like Lake Superior. You're on one side, you can't see the other side. And it just like hard time believing it's a lake.
Yeah. Touche, Derry. You know, I don't know, Derry. It's funny because I'm actually pretty fearless on land, but like as soon as you get me near water, especially larger bodies of water, I will say if I was actually in the middle of a crisis in any of these situations, like if there's a crisis involved, I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing and like, you know, getting through it. But I don't know.
Fitz, stop it. Fitz is...
I have never done paragliding, but that also sounds fun.
I've always wanted to do it and never have. I have jumped out of a perfectly good airplane once. Tandem. I mean,
sure.
With an instructor,
yeah.
Strapped to my back.
How was that?
Amazing. So much fun. Unbelievable. It was, I mean, it's very rare to have an experience in your life where for a certain period of time, you are not thinking about anything else except exactly where you are, what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
And that's what that did to me, at least the first time, you know?
Yeah.
The instructor, the instructor had a sense of humor. I mean, I think they always do this. Well, I think actually the instructors, the guys that do this, a lot of them are actually quite good psychologists as well, and they can tell sort of how you're doing.
Right.
And they talk to you while you're going up in the plane. The guy he's strapped to your back, so he's sitting right behind you, and they talk to you. And I was really nervous.
Yeah.
Like it was a weird experience. We were meant to go up. We were on our way to the airplane, and the station behind us called out, no more jumps. And we all went back because it was bad weather.
Mm.
And then you think, oh, yeah, okay, I guess we have to come back tomorrow. And the guy was like, no, it's fine. We just wait an hour and see how it is. And, often it clears up. And you're like, it's been bad weather and we're going to jump anyway. Okay. And we did. We waited for an hour, and, half of the people are acting like this is no big deal. And half of the people are acting like they're probably going to die today. And then we go out to the plane. And the guy was chatting with me, and I was obviously nervous because I'd been thinking about it for an hour. And the plane went up, and it was gray. It looked like a really gray, overcast kind of day where you think, I don't know, are you sure we're meant to be jumping on a day like today? And then we went up and we got through the clouds, and it was beautiful above the clouds, like sunny and big fluffy clouds and everything. And all of a sudden I was just like, yes, let's do this. This is going to be cool. This is going to be so cool. And all of a sudden I started talking to him, and he was like, oh, you feeling better now? I was like, yeah.
I'm good.
I'm looking forward to it now. And he was like, well, just so you know, when we go out, we're almost always unavoidably, you do a few somersaults, just that you're not scared of that. And I was like, do as many as you want. This is going to be great. So he went out, and he reaches over my shoulders and grabs the grips on the side of the door, and he goes, 1, 2. Out we go on 2, of course. And he went like this, like 10, 15, I don't know, somersaults. It was amazing. It was so cool. I recommend it to everyone.
Yeah. That does sound cool.
Yeah, it was so much fun. The only thing that was bad about it was that it lasts very, very brief amount of time. It's over pretty quickly.
Yeah. I totally second. Doing anything on horseback, honestly, is a huge thrill. Like, I hadn't been on a horse for like 8 years when I went last time. And yeah, I definitely miss that. At some point, I want to have a horse again. Because it's been a long time.
That's one thing I think I was at a kids camp a long time ago, and they brought in some horses, and they probably the oldest, quietest horses you could imagine. Yep. And they put the kids on them and led us around in a circle, and that was about it. That's the only time I've ever been on a horse, which really seems like a pity.
If you ever come to Minnesota to visit, I'll take you on a trail ride.
All right.
That would be fun.
That would be fun.
They are very expensive and they are hard work, but it is very cool when you get a horse that you bond with. And like, there's something very, like, the collaborative power of a horse and rider is very cool to me.
Yeah.
So it's funny. Every time people read Bloodstones, and I'm sure they're going to say the same thing when Cold Silver comes out, they're like, you're a horse person, aren't you? Yes.
Because there are people like Evie sitting out there judging you if you get horses wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough.
I've often wished that more fantasy authors would actually learn to shoot a bow.
Do you know what? If I ever have an archer character, I will ask you to be a sensitivity reader for me.
Yes. I want that on a business card. Archery sensitivity reader.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes.
Do it.
I will absolutely do that. I won't even charge you.
Awesome. Love that. Awesome. Well, Matt, we've been talking for almost 2 hours. We could probably talk for 3 or 4, but thank you so much for spending your evening here on my channel. This Motley Crew.
You have to actually thank Fitz, because she's like 45 minutes past her feeding time now.
Fitz, thank you for sharing your dad.
Been pretty patient.
Was she meowing a little bit ago?
A little, yeah.
Yeah, I heard her a little bit in the
like,
background.
Have you forgotten me? Yeah.
Hello.
Do you know what time it is?
Can you see? Yeah.
Yeah.
My cats will start doing that like 2 hours before it's time for them to eat.
She's been doing it since 6. She starts every day like 4 hours before it's actually her feeding time. She'll start nudging me and running into the kitchen just in case. And
Yeah. The personality of pets is always a wonderful addition to a house.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose if your day is structured specifically around the like 2 times that you eat,
I
that
mean,
makes sense.
Basically all she does is sleep and eat, like pretty much all cats. So, you know, I understand.
Yeah. All right, guys, check down in the description box below, because if for some reason you're subscribed to me and not subscribed to Matt, for the inevitable day when he does put out another fantastic video, subscribe, watch, and join for Sunday Pub tomorrow afternoon, our time, if you are around. And yeah, Matt, thank you for coming on for this very long overdue Motley Crew chat.
Thanks for inviting me.
We got to get back to all the buddy reads that we have listed. Do we even know? We've got Black Company. We talked about Ishiguro, but you read it.
Did we talk about Ishiguro, or did you just send it to me?
Briefly.
Okay.
Briefly.
I
feel like I'm missing at least 2. We have actually had some successful buddy reads, though.
There was more, yeah. I remember we have spoken about more, but
because this is our 3rd one, I think, with Lonesome
certainly
Dove.
The next one is Black Company.
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah. Cool.
So awesome. Thank you, chat, for joining us. If you're watching,
yeah, thanks everybody.
Thanks for hanging out. And I hope you guys are all reading some 5-star reads. I hope you're having a great week, and we'll see you in the next video.
See you tomorrow in Sunday Pub.